Hello everyone, welcome back to my Crafts by the Bow channel. Today I'm going to show you this little bridge fold card that I made last night on my Facebook page. You might have seen the video as well because I did post it last night. But I showed this and then I said that I was going to use this for just a little sneak peek. But this is the piece I'm going to use today. I'm going to remake this piece, but I wanted to make a more masculine card, and I thought that this card base would be great for what I had in mind. And this is just half a piece of cardstock, and it stands up on its own like this. A lot of people will have it this way round, so that the feature piece is on the inside here. And you can see the designer series paper on the outside. But I made mine so that this front panel popped out a little bit more, and that became sort of the star of the show. So I need to start and make this. All the sizings and everything are exactly the same as yesterday's card, and they will be on this blogspot, thecraftsbythebow.blogspot.com. I always put the measurements and everything on there. So I'm going to start with 2 pieces of basic white, and these are actually cut at 5 1/4 by 2. One will become the front piece and one will be the inside piece that we use for a sentiment. And I'm just going to put a little piece of scratch paper down because I'm going to be doing some sponging, and I need to go sort of off the edges of the paper. The stamp sets that I'm using today are Sailing Home, and I'm going to use this little sailing boat, the birds and the lighthouse. And I'm going to use a sentiment from Art Gallery. I just want happy birthday, and there wasn't anything on the Sailing Home set that I wanted to stamp. It wasn't a thank you card, it wasn't congrats, and I didn't need any of these. So I just took another stamp set that I had with a simple happy birthday on it. So I'm going to do the front of the card, and we're going to stamp first the large lighthouse. And I'm only using blue and one Sahara Sand as well for a tiny little accent. But the rest of my things I'm stamping in blue. I'm going to stamp the Night of Navy first. And this is a cling stamp set, so it's a long stamp, so I always just check that everything's got enough ink on. Usually when it's the big block that I use, I'll take the ink block over to the stamp as well, but it's not a great big piece, so I'm pretty sure that will work okay. I'm going to stamp this right at the bottom of my little piece of card so that you can just see like this little rocky part that the lighthouse is based on. Okay, so there's my piece that I need. But while I'm here, I'm going to stamp another one on a post-it note. I want to be able to make a mask to go over the lighthouse, so I'm going to stamp, the sticky side is down here, so I'm going to stamp as near to that sticky side as I can. It doesn't have to be brilliant stamping because we're going to cut it out and we're really only using it for a mask. While I am stamping though, I'm going to do the rest of the decoration on here. So I'm going to find the happy birthday that I need, and I've already popped it on my block, and I'm going to stamp it quite near to the top. I'm just going to put it straight here. Oh, I just need to move it down. I can't quite see. So let's just pop that on here. Try and make it a little bit straighter just so I can see. And I'm sorry if all you can see is the top of my head. Okay, so there's our sentiment. I'm going to put the little seabirds on. And I want this to be all dry before I start to sponge. Okay, and then with the other little piece of white that we made, I'm going to stamp that little sailing yacht. And this is where my sentiment will, not my sentiment, my message will go. So I need quite a lot of space, but I don't want it to be just empty. So I'm just going to pop that little boat on as well. Okay, and let me see. For now, I've finished with this navy. I don't need any more at the moment. But while that ink is all drying, I'm going to cut out the little lighthouse that we put on a post-it note. And it's really quick. I'm only cutting it out roughly. And I'm cutting it just on the edge so that once I have this over the top of our lighthouse, it will sort of protect the stamping that I've already done while I'm sponging. And you really don't have to be, you know, precise. It's just a quick little mask. So if you cut a tiny bit off, don't worry. Okay, there we go. And part of this will have the sticky on from the post-it note. It won't be sticky all over, but that's okay. And now I'm going to do a little bit of my sponging, but I'm going to put another post-it note over. And what I like to do is to choose a point where my sea and my sky are going to meet. And on this one, you can see I did it just under this little part of the lighthouse that sticks out here. I found if you went onto that line, it looked a little bit strange. It either has to be just below that line or just above it. And I'm just going to do it just below again. But I just need to make sure that I've got the post-it note on straight, because otherwise our water horizon won't be straight. Okay, so I'm just going to pop it here, look. There we go. And that also sort of attaches it onto that little piece of scratch paper, so I know it's not going to move very much. And then I'm going to do my lighter blue first. So this is my balmy blue. I'm also going to put my little lighthouse over the top. There we go. That just makes it easier for when we're sponging. And I've got my little blending brush, and I've also got my sponge daubers. If I didn't want any kind of marks or sort of dark and light spots making, I would probably just use the blending brush. But because I want it to look a little bit like sky, I'm going to use the little sponge daubers, because I want some darker patches. I don't want it to be all just plain blue. I want it to almost look as though there might be little white patches in for the clouds, and not to be too flat. Okay, so when you're using the sponge daubers, just rub a little bit on your paper first and then go onto your card. You can always add more layers on, but you can't take much away from it. You know, you can keep going round and round and sponging, but you can't always get rid of a darker patch. So you see as well how I'm keeping this edge. I'm going over with the sponge dauber just to make that bluer edge as well. Yep, and then I'm just going to keep turning it round so that it's easier for me to see and to reach. Yep, let's turn it upside down. And sometimes, if you go really slowly, you can make this look like a seamless blend. But sometimes you just want a little bit of texture in the sponging as well. And that's what I want here. I want it to look a bit like a wild and woolly sky. Okay. I'm going to keep my little dauber out because I might need it again for blending at the bottom. But I know I won't need any more ink on it. Okay, and then I'm going to use my Night of Navy. I'm going to take off my little mask, and I'm going to take off my little piece that's making the sea and the sky. I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to put the post-it note back over where the line is, where the sky starts, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to just add my little lighthouse. Okay, and I'm going to just gently put a little bit of the Night of Navy over here, and this will become, you know, just a little bit darker for our sea or our ocean. But I don't want it too dark. I don't want it to look like, you know, like a midnight kind of colour, because we've got a light sky. So I don't want the sea to be too dark. Okay, I'm going to take these pieces off and have a look. Okay, now where my two pieces line up, can you see I need a little bit more blue here? So I'm going to pop this back on. I'm going to turn it round and pop this back on. And now with my sponge, I'm just going to go over this bit. Doesn't matter if you have some of the lighter blue going into the sea here, just as long as it looks like it is the horizon. Okay. Now I need to do just this little bit of rocky ground where the lighthouse is standing. I don't need my ink from here anymore. So I'm going to get my Sahara Sand. And again, I'm going to use one of my little blending sponge daubers. I'm just looking for there it is. I have little names written on them so that I know which colour I've used on them. Okay, and this is just a little bit of brown so that it looks like the ground. And I will go over this as well with the blue, just at the edges, so that it, you know, it doesn't look like it's sort of not connected. I want it to look like it's on a little bit of a rock. There we go. Let's just make it a little bit darker up here. There we go. I want it to look not like a dirty kind of rock. I don't want it to look like a beautiful clean piece of sand or anything. There we are, that's better. Okay. And then with my blending brush, I'm just going to go over this little edge here, just where this brown and the blue meet. Okay, now I'm quite happy with that. I might just put a little tiny piece of sponging on here for the sea as well. So I'm going to just line it up and see, I still got a little bit of ink on here, so I'm pretty sure there'll be enough just to make a really pale blue. There we go. Yeah, okay. So that just gives that illusion of some water there as well. And that's all the difficult bits done. Let's move these out of the way. I don't need this one anymore. And I am happy with that sky. If I felt like it needed a little bit more blending out, I would just go over, probably with no more ink on my sponge dauber, just go over it a couple of times. But I like that sort of wild and woolly look. Now, while that's drying, we'll make the base. And it's just half a piece of cardstock. I've got Night of Navy, and I've literally just cut it in half. So it's 8.5 by 5.5. And I'm going to score at 2 inches and then 3 1/8 inch. So I'm lining it up at 2. You see, so I've got it on the 2 here. And then I'm just going to go across with my scoring tool. Then I'm going to move it down to 3 1/8. So here's 3. The first little mark is a 16th. The slightly larger mark is an 1/8. So I'm going to go across 2 little marks to make it 3 1/8 and score again. Then I just take the card out, I'm turning it round 180 degrees, popping it back in and doing the exact same measurements. So it will score at 2 and at 3 1/8. And that's all the scoring done. There's not much to do with it at all. And then all you need to do now is to fold your card. And you can see it's going to be sort of like a bridge shape. Let's put it that way. So up like this. So I know that I want this piece to be the piece that stands up. So either side of that middle piece, I'm going to fold the card down. Okay. And then when you look at it, these pieces need to be at the bottom. So I'm going to fold those ones up. like this. So you can see how you're starting to get this bridge shape. This one wants to come up, and there's the shape that you need. And I am just going to go over that with a bone folder just to make sure it's nice and flat. I'm going to go over each of the score lines, and this will just help keep the whole card flat, and when it's standing up on the side as well, that will mean that it's not, you know, falling over, or it's not quite straight. And the more times that you push this down, the better it will actually hold together. The cardstock will have that kind of memory, it knows where it's meant to be. Okay, so there we go. Just going to score that little piece again. Just burnish it down. There we go. Now, to assemble the card, on my first card, I put designer series paper down these pieces. But for this one, I didn't want to have a lot of distraction from the card. So I'm going to make my designer series paper pieces out of the same colour cardstock, and I'm going to emboss it. So I've got these cut. I'm not doing two different ones for the front and the back. I'm going to cut them all exactly the same. So they're all cut at 5 1/4 by 1 3/4. And then what I've done is I took this little greenery embossing folder. This is a pack of 2 that Stampin' Up have at the moment. And all I did was I lined this up right at this left-hand side. And I just popped it on there. Closed it up and then ran it through actually my mini cut and emboss machine, but it will go through the big cut and emboss machine as well. Made sure that I had the seam going through first, and here are the 4 pieces that I ended up with. And I think it's a texture, it's a really nice sort of masculine texture as well, but it doesn't have to be greenery on green card. It makes a great texture for other things too. And then let's use this glue, the other one isn't open. Take that little bit off. I'm going to attach them to the left and the right on the front and on the back. And when it's an embossing folder, you don't always have as much adhesion surface. Oh, come on, glue. Let's open this other one. Okay. You don't have as much that's going to stick down because of the actual embossed elements. So I like to use liquid glue when I do this. And I'm quite generous with it so that I know some of those little bits will actually make it stick onto the card base. I'm just going to push it out flat. Oh, did I cut this one too long? Let me just... I think I did. I just need to cut these ones down. I haven't cut them all to 5 1/4. 5 1/4, yeah. Okay, so let me... Just a little bit too long. I'm sure it wouldn't have mattered if they were all the same. Then they would just be the same length of the as the card, but I'm going to cut it down anyway. Now this is a bit gluey, but I'm gonna pop it in. I can always wipe down my my trimmer afterwards. It's going to be a bit sticky, but that's okay. Put a little bit more glue on the bottom here, and then let's have this attached. I'm just going to wipe off those little bits of glue that I had extra, and it dries clear, so you're not even going to see it. Let's pop some glue on this one. Just put a little bit down the edges. Make sure those edges stick down. Now, if you wanted, you could cut designer series paper for these narrow pieces as well. I haven't, because you don't really see them. But if you wanted to, you certainly could. Okay, I'm just going to turn it over and add the 2 to the back. And if you didn't want to emboss these, you could always just use a different colour of cardstock too. You could just cut them and add a different colour layer on. That would look really nice as well. You can't go wrong with this. And it's just a little bit different. It's not the, you know, the same fancy fold cards that we always make, or it isn't going, it's going to stand out when somebody gets this card and pops it on the side. You know, they'll see it and it'll stand out a lot. Okay. Now, you need to choose whether you're going to do the same as I'm doing and having this piece that protrudes outwards with your card front, or if you want it so that this piece is going on the inside. It looks really nice either way. I just like the look of it when the picture pops, like the center picture. You could put this on dimensionals if you wanted. I'm just going to glue it down flat. But my one that I made yesterday, I put the base of it down flat, and then the little extras that I added on. See, I put the base down flat, but this little extra tree, I popped that one on dimensionals. You could add a little piece of twine round or ribbon as well if you wanted something just a bit different. You can add rhinestones. If you have any of the trinkets, you could add those as well. Okay, so that's our little piece that we will write on. And then this will become the front. And this does fit in just an ordinary medium envelope. When it's closed, it actually measures 5 1/4 by 4. So you've got plenty of room in an envelope. Now, if you have the little trinkets that go with these, they're the ones that are little ship's wheels and little anchors. I don't know if I've got them on my desk. Yes, I have. So you could add one of these little trinkets at the bottom with maybe a little piece of twine, the anchor, to set it off. You could put them on these side pieces. There's lots of different ways to dress it up. But there's our basic little card. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate your support. I'm only, I think, about 16 subscribers away from 2,000. So I'm going to post another little video with a giveaway, because I'm so grateful for everybody that's signed up to be on the YouTube channel. And I thought we'd do just a little giveaway for when I get to 2,000 subscribers, which won't be long, only a couple of weeks, I think. So look out for that video too. But thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you all again really, really soon. Take care, everyone, and have a great time crafting. Bye-bye.